Hi, this is Diana Kovacs for Hampton Art. Did you ever wonder which type of ink to use for your stamping project? We have two different pads here. We have the archival dye ink pads, and then we have pigment pads. People have asked me this question for so many years, and I basically tell them when you want to use something that dries, you're going to use dye. Dye dries. When you want to use powder, pigment inks are for embossing powder. So I'm going to just do two quick little demos to explain the difference between the inks. The archival dye ink pads by Colorbox are really beautifully saturated colors. I usually use them as a background color, picking them up with a sponge and then going in a circular motion and lightly just hitting the paper, and turn the paper. Instead of trying to turn your wrist, it's easier to turn the paper. And just let it hit the edge of the paper. And what happens is it makes a darker edge and it colors your paper. So no matter what color you want to do, you don't have to buy the color paper. You just need white paper and an ink pad. So there I've done a background that looks like a nice textured model background. Now I'm going to take a stamp and take this little bird stamp, put that on my lucite block. These are the bird cling sets from Hampton Art. And when you stamp with the same color inks, it comes up much darker color than when you sponged it on. So you can use that as a matching tone on tone. I'm going to stamp those little birds all over the background. That's the fun part of rubber stamping, is you can take an image that's just one and make it a whole flock of birds. Remember to stamp off your paper. It makes a continuous design. There. That's my background for my card. And now I have a piece of glossy paper. It's very shiny and it's non-porous. So I'm going to use the archival dye ink pad on this too. It's going to dry within a matter of seconds. And I don't have to heat set it. And it keeps the clean, crisp detail of these detailed stamps. Gorgeous. Press that down. And look at that. It's really a beautiful image. Now I've pre-cut a piece of black cardstock, just a little bit bigger than the glossy. Stick that right on there. And I can do this just this quickly because the ink's already dry. And then I can mount that on my background, which matches. And then I have a piece of black cardstock that's folded into a greeting card size. And there we go. That's the archival dye pad that did this whole job. So now switching over to pigment inks. They come in metallic colors, they come in solid colors, but they have a more opaque base. So when you stamp with them, they really give a beautiful, rich image. I'm going to start with the bronze ink and start with this little bird stamp. See, very solid image. I'm going to turn this one upside down to ink it so that I know that my pigment ink is going on in a even fashion. Press that down. I don't know if you can catch this, but it really reflects the light. It's very metallic, beautiful color. And again, I could do this as a background all over this white cardstock. Even if I stamp this on a black cardstock, it would still be metallic. Where the dye inks, they won't show up on a dark cardstock. We'll do one more here. Maybe a couple feet up here. On the other side, just for the continuity. There. So that's my background, and that's all stamped in bronze ink. So for the next pigment ink demo, I'm going to do an embossing trick. Embossing, if you haven't ever seen anybody do that, it's like the magic of rubber stamping. I would show people how to do this and they go ooh and ah. It's very gorgeous. I can use any color of the pigment pads. I'm going to use black because it's the most quick change. Okay, ink that up. And I'm going to stamp it on this espresso ink pad, or cardstock. Now I have silver embossing powder in this dish. I'm going to sprinkle it on the image, and because pigment ink stays wet longer, the powder will actually stick to the image where I stamped it. Using a heat tool, you're going to melt the powder until it becomes raised and shiny. Starting on that side, and then it goes pretty far. Beautiful. Now that image is permanent, and it's raised and shiny, and this is beautiful for doing for wedding invitations, for any kind of invitation that's formal. This part you're going to have to heat set if you want that to be permanent. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to show you that you can just attach this to the card, and that would be our second card. So this is pigment ink and dye-based inks. And now you know the difference. It's Diana Kovacs for Hampton Art.